We are back. Appreciate y'all. Glad you're here tapped in with us. I know you would much rather watch us than the Broncos and the Saints right now. So we appreciate y'all for choosing this over that. That's on TV. That is old Rattler. And look, Bryan said something poignant to me backstage, man. Just the luck of your Cowboys. Just the luck. You run into the Saints and the Saints play you and they look like a whole new contender. They look like a team you got to respect. They look like a team that's about to win the South. That's about to give the Bucks and the Falcons a run for their money. But boy, they about to lose 5 in a row, Bryan Broaddus. That's your luck.
It's crazy. It's crazy how the NFL schedule will break down and when you play certain teams. And, man, you catch the Saints now, next week, man, you're probably sitting pretty good. You're probably beating them by 3 touchdowns.
Bryan, Voch says this. Do you think the Eagles are going to look at the Cowboys in that way? And let's say about 5 or 6 weeks.
Could.
You know, they're looking at the Cowboys now and go, hey, we'll beat the hell out the Cowboys. But do you think the Cowboys can figure it all out in about 6 weeks?
The problem you run into is this San Francisco game ain't going to be easy, as we all know. Never is. You know, San Francisco finds a way to all the players that have been banged up and hurt and all that will all come back for that game. You know, and Dallas will be coming off the bye and stuff, but, you know, still they'll have some issues there. Then the Atlanta game, you know, I mean, it just Atlanta looked like a team that you kind of felt like, well, you know, pretty good on offense. What they're going to do on defense, you know, now they look like a legitimate team, like a team that might win the NFC South. You kind of earmark that one as a win. That's going to be a battle right there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think these next 2 weeks are really, really, really important for the Cowboys.
Sure.
I just don't feel like you can lose both of these games and kind of carry things on and expect anything with what's going on with the schedule. You know, I know there's time left and all that, but I just don't feel – I wouldn't feel too good about, you know, losing, you know, 3 straight games, you know, with the bye and all that. You know, now the questions really start to creep in about the head coach. Should he be here? Do they need to make a change? Has the team quit?
Sure.
You know, I don't think the team will quit on this guy. I really don't.
Yeah.
They might just get why?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked why. I just don't see him quitting on this guy.
Sure.
Because I feel like they'll very well lose game. They've proven how they can lose games. You know, they don't play well enough on defense. Offense, you know, messes around in the red zone, doesn't get enough points. You know, it was amazing that as good as that Steeler game was, you know, they're going to probably have to win games like that. You're going to probably have to find a way, final drives and stuff, you know, maybe it's Atlanta, the Giants, the Commanders, you know, you kind of felt like that you would have a really good shot at taking, you know, all the, you know, not maybe all your games. You're going to probably split with Philadelphia, but you felt like we could take the Commanders for 2. We could take the Giants for 2, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know. The Commanders look like a different team. Commanders on defense might not be as good as they need to be right now, but that offense is tough to deal with.
Sure.
They got that thing kind of humming along. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a difficult stretch, and it very well might determine, you know, what happens the rest of the year when it comes to things.
Even when we had a positive feel about this coach and coaching staff and what it was going to look like, we still felt like we needed more players. You know, we can go get a player here, go get a player there. But the owner, general manager came out and said he don't know where to find them at. He don't know where the players at, Bryan. He said, where the hell would you even find a running back better than Zeke and Rico? Where would you find any help at one tech or anything like that? So now I think that's all but confirmed. And look, that could be chum in the water, but I think it's all but confirmed. The team that we have is the team that we got.
And that's the problem is that you lost a lot of depth. They went into it thinking we're going to play young guys, we're going to play rookies, we're going to try and do our best to get those guys ready. And then you had the injuries. Then, you know, you you didn't count on all these injuries. You're going to have injuries, no question. You didn't count on losing Micah for a couple of games and losing Tank for 6 to 8 weeks, and you lose Bland for all that time with a foot injury.
Sure.
You weren't counting on that.
Yeah.
But you lose Kendricks for a game. You weren't counting on all these things. Then you start losing guys, and then your offensive line ain't playing great. And can I ask you a question,
please?
Troy Aikman came out and started talking about the wide receivers.
Sure.
That he felt like that they don't run good routes. What were your thoughts about what he said? I don't know if you heard the complete quote,
sure,
or saw the quote.
Yeah.
But where he was basically saying that they're not really good. They're not good route runners. And that's, so I was just curious what you thought.
I think Troy was half and half on it. I think Troy was incorrect with, saying, well, they need to run routes better. I think everybody's not going to be a great route runner, and everybody doesn't have to be.
Bingo.
If you look at the 49ers, they're not a group of great route runners.
Nope.
Those dudes just get the ball and go. Like IU can run routes, but Jennings doesn't run routes. That with Debo's not a route runner, right? It's just whatever your skill is your skill. CeeDee Lamb is a yak guy. He's not a route runner per se. Right. So I think Troy's incorrect on the route running part. What Troy is absolutely right about is I think this offense has regressed into like a one read offense, right? So when something's happening, all right, so this read over here, they're gonna run a stick combo over here. Guys on the other side of the field are jogging. You can look at the film and see that. You can clearly see. I can look at the film like, okay, well, CD's definitely not a part of this play, and he's looking around. Turpin's not a part of this play, and he's looking around. But those guys are, so they're running fast. I think that can be a problem. The Lions don't do that. The 49ers don't do that. Everybody's running full speed over there. And also, too, Brian, I don't think it's necessarily about the route running. I think it's about the routes that your play caller are dialing up for you.
Yeah,
that's my biggest issue with this Bryan McCarthy thing, and that's my biggest issue with the wide receiver. Their lack of getting open isn't because of the stems and the head movement and the hands and feet and setting DBs up. It's because Mike McCarthy's calling hitches and slants 50% of the time. That's my issue there. So I do think Troy was half right, but I do think Troy was half wrong there.
What if I told you Dallas's routes, most routes run by the Cowboys, are vertical and ends? What would you say to that?
I'd be like, we must don't throw those routes. those must be the routes that are run on the backside.
I was looking today at the metrics on that. Dallas's highest routes are vertical and ends. Those are the two highest routes that they run.
From a play calling structure standpoint, I can understand the go routes because sometimes guys can run a go just to take a safety with them or to take a linebacker with them
to get the end cuts and stuff like that too.
Sure. So I can see why I go there. I would love to know the analytics on the completed routes because those are the routes that matter. Like the routes.
I went through and just was curious. I was just curious because I fall down that rabbit hole of
analytics,
like the analytics where I'm like, wow, why is Green Bay 80% motion, but like their successful plays out of motion are less than the plays with no motion. I always, and then I started looking at Dallas's route combinations, and let me see if I could do this, see if I don't mess this up here. I might mess this up, Voch. I hope I don't.
Don't worry about it.
But if I do, I'll be back at a later date here. But
I'm gonna
just talk while I do this because I'm working on. I need another computer just to pull up analytics is what I need to do.
Yeah, I got you, Brian. I think the biggest issue while you doing that, I think the biggest issue is is if I can search for the routes completed or something like that, or the routes attempted or the routes targeted, I think that's something that'll matter to me, because the end routes could be, all right, we're just running an end to set up a pick over here, or we're running a go to just get somebody out of the box or something like that. I don't really buy the idea that hitches and damn slants ain't at the top of this list. Also too, like, how do they categorize ends? Are ends 5 yards and in? Are ends slants? Are ends 10-yard dig routes?
Yeah, I think they're ends. I think like I said, I need to figure out.
It's okay. I'm buying time. I'm stalling for you, Brian. Bro.
I really appreciate you. I appreciate you doing this. Let's see if I can, because like I say, there's so many things you could do with this analytics now, and and drop back routes. Okay, here we go. Routes. Let's look at the routes. Okay. Whoops. Add the routes.
I'm really interested about this, Bryan Broaddus.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Here we go. I pulled it up. Look at this. Amazing. I look goofy as heck doing this as I'm reading. Okay, here we go. This year in the routes. Okay. In breaking routes at 35%. Out breaking routes, 27%. Vertical routes, 20%. Okay, you talked about hitches and stuff like that, right? 18%. Out route, about 8% on those. Crossing routes, 11%. Slant route, 9%. Flat route, 14%. These are the route target tendencies for the Cowboys. I'll just read it. I'll just go across and read you what they say. This is coming. I have access to next gen stats that the teams get. This is not something that Joe and Flower Mound gets. This is actually, because I work with the Cowboys, I get this. But they've got 238 attempts, and they're looking at, again, 14% flat routes, 9% slant, 11% cross, 8% out, 5% in, 18% hitch, 5% corner, 4% post, 10% go, wide receiver screens at 4%, running back screens at 3%, screen in general at 6%, and angle route. I wonder if the angle is like that in the breaking route, maybe the Texas route where they go out, and then running back goes out and then breaks in.
Sure.
That's at 7%. Wheel route, 0.8%. In breaking routes, 35%. Out breaking routes, 27%. Vertical routes, 20%. That's how they have the routes broken down this year so far.
That's interesting, Brian. That's interesting. And, if it's routes run, sure, I would love to know routes completed or routes, routes thrown to or something like that. I think that's the one I'm really looking for. Because look, when I'm watching film, Brian, I see people run down the field and turn around. That's just what I see, and I can't be the only one thinking that. And the in breaking routes, I wonder if they count spot routes as a part of that. Like, you break in and then you sit down and you turn around, right? So it's an interesting number. It's an interesting number. But boy, I would just love to know how they're counting that, because I see a bunch of stopping. I don't see a bunch of moving around.
Yeah, this is now they broke it down a little further. Team passing tendencies is what they're looking at here. Just team, and this has to do with how they pass. And so it's Dallas deals with an average of 2.9 yards of separation. So 3 yards of separation on average. 23% of those throws are tight window throws. 37% of the time they're deemed open. Only 17% of the time are they deemed wide open. And then average yard per attempt, about 8 yards per attempt. And so, okay, where the passes are thrown, 51% of the passes are thrown short, 21% in the middle, 10% deep.
Yeah.
See, but there's numbers like 51.3, and I'm just going ahead and, if it's more than 5 or more, I round it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I say, 51% on the short routes, 21% on the mid routes, and 10% on the deep routes. That's 9.7. So 49% of the routes are thrown, or percentage are thrown, are seam routes. So
49% of routes thrown are seam routes.
Yeah. Seam routes are 49%. Numbers is 39%. Wide is 34%. Slot is 36%. Tight is 11%. So those are the tendencies that they have. But like I said, I just you could just kind of just fall into this rabbit hole of what you're doing with with the passing game and stuff like that, and how they run the ball, and it's pretty crazy how they all break these things down.
So yeah, I mean, all that to say, I mean, Troy Aikman pushed you down this rabbit hole with Bryan Broaddus.
Yeah.
So
no, he absolutely did, and it's funny that it's funny he did, because I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Cowboys have maybe one route runner on this team, and that's Cooks, and he's not even playing.
Sure.
When you watch Lamb, not a great route runner, I would say, but run after catch, outstanding. I would Tolbert, no,
absolutely not.
No. Flournoy, no. Brooks,
not Turpin,
no. Turpin, no. I mean, Turpin and Cooks are your two fastest guys.
Sure.
Everybody else running routes, it's kind of a slow. It's a much slower route. So it doesn't seem like they're really, like, the routes are bad. They're, as a unit, they're not a really good route running team. I think Cooks, like I said, Cooks is the best route runner you have.
Yeah.
So to me, I kind of look at it as a team that struggles because they, with separation stuff, because A, they're not great route runners, because B, I just don't think they're fast enough.
Sure.
I don't think they're a fast or a quick team off the line.
Yeah.
I think that's a big problem.
Yeah.
I think it's a big problem.
All
so
right.
I was like with Troy. I mean, I respect the heck out of Troy,
Sure.
but I think you got to be careful. I just don't think this is a very good route running team.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Yeah. That's definitely not our
That's
game.
Not the MO. That's not our MO right now.
But we got another roster breakdown, Bryan Broaddus. Today we're going to look at
right?
And boy, I know I ain't got nothing nice to say about these running backs, but Jerry Jones don't know where to find anymore. But we do have to talk about the linebackers, and I think we can have a pretty good dialogue about the linebackers. But let's get running backs out of the way, Bryan.
Yeah, running backs. Let's go with Rico Dowdle.
Hey man, we're not gonna use him, man. I mean, like, if we're not gonna use him to his fullest potential, then what are we doing? I would love to know if my last name was Jones, I would have walked into the offensive meeting, or I'd have talked to Mike McCarthy. I'd have made him late for his press conference. I'd be like, Mike, man, how come Rico was so productive in Pittsburgh? How come he got 20 carries and a couple of catches in Pittsburgh? He looked like our most productive back. And, I know we only ran the ball 7 times in the first half this week versus the Lions, but man, Rico only got 2 attempts. He only got 2 carries. And you're this guy that preaches attempts all the time, Mike. I would love for Coach Mike McCarthy to explain to me that when it finally looks like Rico Dowdle is running back one, what happened to him being running back one versus Detroit? We don't even act like Rico's running back one. I think when you give him the opportunities and when it's blocked decently, I think Rico is a solid running back for you. Now, it's real easy to get ungrateful when you see both of those other running backs on the other team that we just played, Bryan Broaddus.
Yeah.
You know, Montgomery, Gibbs, I would love to have either one of those guys, and both those guys are better than any running back that we have on this team. But out of the ugly babies that we got, Rico is our ugly baby to make the best grade. So I just wanted to know why aren't we playing him more? But he's a solid back when we give him the ball. I don't. If I could find a running back better, I would love to. But as of what we got, I think he's our best guy. But we're not giving it to him.
Yeah, I think it's really unfortunate, and I really hope that Ezekiel Elliott, you know, the little bit of concern that he had about his role.
Sure.
You know, it got in the media and all that. And I really don't want to believe that he went in there and told Mike McCarthy that, you know, hey, what's the issue? Why can't, you know, what's my deal? And Mike or Mike or Jerry or Steven or Will or somebody, you know, you can have conversations with your coaches about how you want to play guys. But if, you know, Mike McCarthy said, sure, you know, I bet you know, if Jerry came in there and said, we need to play this guy, and Mike said, sure, you know, now Mike could have also done it in a way of, okay, sure, I'll play him. And then he realizes that he's going to average 2 yards a carry.
Sure.
And then Mike doesn't have to play him ever again. You know, I mean, it might be, okay, sure, I'll play this guy. We'll see, you know, and maybe the coaching staff knew that Ezekiel Elliott was not going to be good. I mean, you could see that with your own eyes.
Sure.
You could see that there were, you know, there's been times where, you know, maybe 1 or 2 runs, but overall, no. Yeah. Rico Dowdle is your best back. And for him not to get the opportunities that he got in the Steelers game, you know, I think that's a terrible way to operate. But I wonder, like I said, if Zeke, his concern or his, you know, bringing up, hey, well, what about me? You know, maybe, like I say, maybe Mike said, okay, yeah, what about you? We'll play you. And
I hate that though. I hate that. And look, I don't mind.
But it proved a point.
It proved his point. Yeah.
If Mike McCarthy said, no, we need to play Rico Dowdle more and not Ezekiel Elliott, then Mike proved his point. You know, do you want to do that again? You know, and you'd hate to say, hey, you'd have to lose a game to do that. But if Mike, in fact, or Mike just might said, you know what, fine, I'll play the guy. Let's see what we got. And in actuality, he needs to be playing Rico Dowdle more in that for sure.
Bryan, you think Mike McCarthy's checked out of this job? It's just that the rent's due. He just needs something to do on the weekdays, Bryan. I know it takes a lot of work.
I don't think he's checked out. I don't think he's checked out.
Yeah.
I don't think he's checked out yet. I don't think, you know, does Mike McCarthy have concerns that, you know, that his job is in, you know, he doesn't have a contract. So, you know, you keep losing games, he's not going to get a contract. But, you know, I think Mike's going to continue to coach. But I don't think if this thing turns into that they don't, you know, they lose 7 out of the next 8, then what's going to happen is by the middle of November around Thanksgiving, you're going to see coaches start to close their doors at night and hunt up jobs, you know, you know, hey, what's happening? What are you hearing out there? What jobs are coming open? I heard the Jets are going to do this. Heard the Giants are going to do this. You know, it's the unfortunate thing that happens in our business when things are going bad. You do go into your office and close your door and get on the phone with your buddies around the league and try and figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And
I don't think we're there, but you lose 6 of the next 7 games.
Yeah.
And then there'll be that you don't think they practice well now. Watch what those practices look like.
Sure.
You know, when dudes are hunting up jobs, but hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah.
You think we've talked enough about Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, I don't have a positive thing to say about 15, man. So we can go ahead and move on, man.
What about what they've done with Deuce Vaughn?
I think if you can't find a role for him, I think we got to move on. I mean, he's a guy that's not active, and he's a dude that's taking up a roster spot right now, and he's not playing teams for you. And you know, I knew this was going to be weird when Wanye Thomas was out there as a return guy. Like, what is Wanye doing returning? Like, where's Deuce as the return guy? You know, so if that's going to be the case, I think Deuce is a guy that we could probably move along from. Cool little story. I actually thought that Deuce was going to be a solid contender for the job. I think if he was a couple inches taller, he would have been a first round pick. He was so good in college, but this is a whole nother monster, and I guess they just can't find a way for him.
Yeah, I kind of feel like though, if you're not going to, I don't think they will sit. Now, I don't think they'll sit Zeke. I don't think they will. But then again, I don't find a spot for Deuce Vaughn either.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I'd sure like to see. I would like to see Dalvin Cook. Just out of curiosity.
Sure.
Just out of curiosity.
What does he have? What does he have?
What does he have?
Sure.
Yeah, you've got him practicing. He's ready. He's healthy. I haven't heard anything negative about him. What's keeping you? What's keeping you from taking a look at Dalvin Cook?
15 is keeping you from looking at
well,
Dalvin
then,
Cook.
then this is where the general manager or somebody, the head coach, needs to step in and say, we're dressing Dalvin Cook this weekend, and Ezekiel Elliott is not going to be active. Yep. We're going to go with Dowdle, Cook, and Hunter Lipke. That's going to be our backs today.
Yeah.
For this game.
Sure.
That's where if but then again, you might be the situation where Mike McCarthy's like, just like you said, yeah, Jerry, whatever you want to do. Sure, Jerry.
Which is why, and Brian,
I hate even saying that.
That's why I asked, is he checked out of all this?
I know,
maybe he's not checked out of win mode. He's trying to win, but man, this is a circus. These interviews are a circus. This radio stuff is a circus. Why is Diana Rossini calling me and asking me, has Jerry Jones ever talked to me this way? Why the New York Times I'm trying to do all this? Dang, I can't even start the running back I want to start. Why is Jerry trying to make me play 15? I don't have ties to Zeke like this. I want to play Dalvin Cook. I know him from these battles in this division that we used to have, playing against this guy. I don't want the Vikings and all this kind of stuff. That's what I'm asking. Is Mike McCarthy getting checked out of this stuff?
And when you think about it that way, I mean, I was thinking of Mike McCarthy checking out, not doing his job or wanting to do his job, but maybe he doesn't want to deal with the. He'll deal with it because that's his job. But I can't tell you how many times I've sat there at AT&T Stadium and doing a post-game show, and literally he is 15 feet away from me on the other side of a glass, and there's 4 reporters after a game asking him questions. Where are the other 35 reporters? Crowded around Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
And you just kind of maybe wonder, it's, you look at it as you're Mike McCarthy. It's like, fine, if Jerry wants to do this, Jerry wants to do that, fine.
Yeah.
But Mike also needs to, and this is where he has to be careful. Mike needs to think about potentially his next gig. And Mike can't be putting out their bad tape.
Sure.
Mike has to think about, well, damn, his team completely fell apart. He didn't do anything to help them, he's got to think about his next job. Like someone will give him the benefit of doubt. Like, okay, yeah, you work for the Cowboys, and Jerry, what a circus. Oh man, let me tell you, what a circus, but he's also, for his next gig, he's got to put good tape out there, where, hey, the team played hard. They played hard for him. They never quit. They were outmanned. They didn't do enough, that kind of thing. So I think Mike has to continue to coach hard, but I also feel like, to your point, he might say, sure, Jerry, sure. Yeah. You want to play this guy? Sure. We'll play him.
Sure.
We'll play him. And I think that's the unfortunate thing.
Hmm.
I think that's the unfortunate thing. This running back room is a mess, but I'd love to see. I would love to see Dalvin Cook play at least up until the trade deadline.
Sure.
And at that point in time, it might not be worth it for you to trade for anybody.
Mm.
You know, it might be, okay, this is done. Stick a fork in it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not good enough.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe Dalvin Cook playing 3-4 games will give you an idea if, wow, we don't need to trade for a guy, or wow, Dalvin Cook's making a huge difference here. And look at us run the football now with Dalvin Cook. God, we should have been running him since week 1.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
And in real life, Mike McCarthy wants to throw the football 40 times a game anyway. So, I mean, you know, we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe it comes down to who's the better pass catch out of all these guys. So, we'll see.
Sure. Okay, I think we got the running back squared away.
Yep.
But you're interested in Dalvin Cook too?
Yeah, 100%. Because I just need an idea. I
do too.
I can't properly say.
Just out of curiosity.
I can't say Dalvin Cook can't play, and I haven't seen him play. I just got to see him play.
That's where I'm at too.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at too. I would like to be able to say Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott are the same guy, or Dalvin Cook still has something left here. Has something left.
I know Zeke can't play, but we'll go ahead.
Okay. How about Eric Kendricks? Let's go shift over to the linebackers.
Yeah, man. You know, Kendricks is you know, there was this vibe about Kendricks when he first got here. And then we watched Kendricks and we was like, oh man, Kendricks might be really good. But that vibe prior to that was like, all right, cool. He's an older player, veteran dude. Wasn't what he once was, out of his prime and all that kind of stuff. He'll be a great leader and da-da-da. I think we're back to that stage with Kendricks. I think the first couple of games, I think he came out on fire. I think he's kind of come down a little bit. But I still think he's great for the whole group. I think he's a good mental standard for the whole group. And I think if he's on the field, he can at least tell dudes where to go.
Yeah, I think there's some things about his play that have been positive. I think early. I think that, man, there's times when we watch these games, he gets wore down.
Yeah.
He's having to fight a lot of blocks. He's having to make all the tackles, basically. You know, he's having to play in coverage. He's having to try and get everybody lined up. I think there's been some, like I said, I think there's been some really, really, really good snaps for him. And then others where it's like, you know, that's a veteran guy that, man, he just got caught a half step short on that one.
Sure.
Oh, the blockers got him on that one. I think for what my hope for him was that he was going to be able to make the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little worried about that. I know he's already missed one game.
Sure.
But I was worried about him getting so banged up. He's usually a very durable guy, but you know, Father Time waits for nobody in this game.
Mm-mm.
And I just kind of wonder if with all the early season wear and tear they had, you know, that maybe that he might be kind of wearing down, and we got a lot of weeks to go still.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I agree with you on that. How about Overshown?
Man, you know how we've been talking about Overshown, man. That's the best player on your defense. I think
Sure.
I would love to see what he looks like when our D-line is a little better, or our tackles at least. But he's a guy, high energy, flies all over the place, and I think he's exceeded what I thought he was going to be, Brian. You know, just me coming into this season, I thought he was going to be like, all right, he was a red shirt last year, okay? He's kind of like his rookie season. You know, maybe not bring him along slowly or whatever, but I think it'll be a combination of Overshown, Louisville. No, man, Overshown's one of the best players on defense, and he needs all the reps. All this little nonsense of, yeah, we couldn't put him in base package, but we played him in sub. Nonsense. Put him in base. Oh, well, he's not big enough for the 5-2 package. Nonsense. Put him in there. Oh, well, we're not going to put him on goal line. He's not big enough. Nope. Put him on there. I need to see him on everything, Brian, because he's all you got. He's your best player right now on defense.
Yeah, I think there's been times where he clearly, when he makes a mistake, he's going to make it going 1,000 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he might read it wrong. He might see it not the right way, but his ability to react, recover, tackle, man, he is as good as advertised.
Sure.
Like I said, I think that him playing all these snaps have been really, really good for him. but I think, like I said, and I think it'll benefit him more for 2025.
Mm.
You know, because there are things where you see him kind of taking a chance, jumping around a gap, jumping a block, maybe reading it not the right way. But everything about him running to the football and finishing when he gets there is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
He's just going to have to learn that, because the son of a gun tries to make every single tackle.
Sure do.
He really, really does. And I admire him for that. The toughness he shows. I just worry about him getting really beat down. You know, we've already seen Kendricks kind of look a little beat down.
Sure.
I'm worried about Overshown. You know, his first full year of playing.
Sure.
He's going to make it's almost like watching with like last year with Bell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you knew that Bell was, but by the end, Bell was just kind of hanging on, you know, because he had been in the battle so much.
Sure.
But I think this kid's future is really, really, really bright. And some of the bumps and bruises and hiccups and things that he's having right now will benefit him further down the road.
Yep.
He's going to be a really good player for you one day.
Yep.
He already is a really good player for you, but an even better one
Promo.
in the future. In the future. How about Maris Leofau?
I see him making some plays too, Brian. You know, they're kind of far in between sometimes, but I see him really jump out and make some plays. I see him get downhill aggressively. So that's about where I had him at. You know, I expected him to have some bumps in the roads. I didn't think he was gonna play as much. He's played a lot more than I thought he was gonna be playing. But he's done what he'll get tricked up on some misdirection sometimes. But But when he sees it, he gets downhill in a hurry and he tackles and he rallies. So Leofau has been who I thought it was going to be. I wish we had healthy edge dudes because I don't want to see Leofau playing end anymore. I don't want to see Overshown those guys. I don't want to see my linebackers playing end. But when Leofau is at linebacker, I think he's right on track. I'm seeing some good things from him.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit like Overshown, that how aggressive he is and how, you know, quick he can read. I really do like the way he does play downhill. I think he's a very physical player when he gets the opportunity. I've seen him in the hole a couple of times, miss some tackles that I thought he should have made.
Sure.
But man, you know, the effort, the desire, the smarts, you're right about getting fooled on some of the misdirection stuff. But yeah, he to me is a guy that I had a lot of questions about him.
Sure.
Because I didn't have him getting drafted that high. Mm-hmm. You know, I really, really did. And they think the world of the kid. And they probably thought a little bit, well, not a little bit, they thought about him a lot higher than I did. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like that watching him play, that if they would have taken him when I thought they should have taken him, I would feel better about the pick.
Because, boy, Braylon Allen look special, don't he?
I'm just saying there are a lot of those backs there that to me, that's kind of where I earmarked. And I was always going to go through this season thinking, okay, is Leofau going to make me forget one of these backs? And it hasn't happened. But if you take Leofau in Carson's spot in the fifth round,
sure.
Man, he's playing really well for you right now.
Leofau will have to come out and play like Overshown for me to feel like, okay,
that justified that pick right there.
Missing on the backs was okay. He would have to be. Yeah. So next year, if he look like Overshown, then we can, we'll be all right.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. I just think right now,
not right now.
Right now, it's kind of like I feel like I had the player right.
Sure.
But he's got a shot. He's got a shot to be a much better player than I thought, but I was hopeful that he was going to make me forget these running backs that I see every week in the league that were kind of all in that area.
Sure.
And I can't get that out of my mind going into week 7 of the NFL season.
Yep.
Okay, how about this one? Damone Clark.
We ain't been seeing him, Brian. Where you been? just as much as Jerry was like, hey, where's the players you want to add? I feel like Damone Clark has slowly been phased out of this thing. Now he got some reps last week, and I think he was just Damone Clark on those. I think he's who we always thought he was going to be. We had this idea, or at least I did. I'll just say me, that there was more competition in the room this year than last year. So I thought Damone Clark would look at that and go, all right, let me step all this up. Yeah. So I can meet those guys. And, I think Damone Clark is just kind of blending in with the young guys. And when your 3-4 year veteran is blending in with the young guys, I just think that's just almost time for your 3-4 year veteran to be up out of here. Still a great athlete. Still a great moving player. I think he's just missing Van Der Esch. That's all.
Yeah, I think that he's always going to need help with whoever's playing next to him can kind of help him along. Like, okay, be aware of this, look for this, watch this, be alert, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I think that, when you're in that situation where you're having to kind of rely on people around you to kind of help you along, I think it doesn't allow you to play free like you need to play, because you're always trying to kind of get the idea and then react to that instead of just going and doing what you need to do. And I think that's why Mike doesn't play him as much.
Which is why him being the backup Mike linebacker is strange, right? Yeah. Because if he's on the field, I at least want Kendricks on the field with him. But he's on the field when Kendricks is off the field. I was like, man, put Vigil out there or something. Let Vigil tell him where to go or something. You know what I mean? So, Clark probably won't be a Cowboy too long.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that, there's some, with the thing with Mike is, you need to have an understanding of your assignments, what you need to do, how you execute your assignments, and very talented guy, but down in, down out, it's not always there.
Sure.
And I can kind of understand why he doesn't play. I can kind of understand that. How about Nick Vigil?
Nick been cool. Nick's been cool. He hadn't played too much, but when I see 41 out there, I'm always going, who's 41? And he's still getting elevated. I think he's a full-time team member now, right?
He's a full-time guy now. Him. Yeah. And then we've also started to see more of Buddy Johnson as well.
I think Vigil has passed Damone Clark in this lineup or whatever. When I see Vigil, I feel a little more confident about Vigil on the field than when 18's on the field.
I still kind of worry. I think there's some things with Nick Vigil that I saw him playing in the preseason, before, and I kind of felt good about him. I said, oh, tough guy, smart guy. He plays a step slow to me sometimes.
For sure, yeah.
And I'm like, God, he didn't see that. All of a sudden they're up on him, and him and Buddy Johnson, those guys. I mean, if they're playing a lot of snaps for you on defense, I think you're probably in trouble right now.
Big trouble, yeah.
But special team stuff and all that, I think that's kind of where that's where he needs to be. But this group as a whole, kind of like the offensive line to me, Voch, when you look at, maybe I thought there was going to be a strength. Don't know if it necessarily was going to be as good as I thought it was going to be. I was expecting, Clark on the come, Leofau on the come. I was thinking about, I had a feeling that Overshown was going to be good. And I had a feeling that Kendricks was going to be good. I think they've kind of been okay.
Yeah.
I don't think as a group, but I also know this, when they have to face a bunch of blocks or blockers on them, it is a real problem.
Sure.
But when they're able to run and get to the ball and not have to deal with blockers in their face all day,
sure,
maybe a little bit better than. But I think there's been too many games this year where they've had to fight blocks way too much in games. And I think that's affected their play overall.
I think a lot of our excitement from this linebacker crew was just knowing that they would be better than our linebackers.
That they actually had linebackers?
Yeah, that we had linebackers and that they're better than what we did last year. And I do think that the crew now is better than what we had last year. Still.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But they've taken a bit of a tumble a little bit, but it's all right. It's all right. Yeah. Overshown's still one of your best players, and he's gonna have to carry the group. This is what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
got through it, my friend.
That's everything. We gonna talk about safeties and quarterbacks tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll talk about safeties core. We'll get through that, and Friday staple. Probably got a couple of questions I can ask you along the way.
Yeah, man, because Marquise Bell, man. You mentioned Marquise Bell a little bit. I was like, oh man, what happened to Marquise Bell? I think your defense can use him right now. I think your defense can use him to some capacity.
I'll be interested to see what you think about this safety group tomorrow. I really will be, because I think there's some things that we kind of that we're looking at, and maybe they're seeing it a little bit different way, kind of the way they're playing guys. But it'll be a good discussion tomorrow. Look forward to it, man.
Brian, let me ask you a question. How do you handle being right? Are you told you so guy, or you just kind of let it? You just let. No,
I always admit when I'm wrong.
Sure.
And when I'm right, if I'm right, I just let it go. The wrongs sting me more than the satisfaction you get out of the right.
Okay.
I mean, I've had people like, oh, you pointed this out, you said this, I'm like, I don't even acknowledge that.
Okay.
But, if somebody says, well, you said this, I'm like, you're absolutely right. I thought this offensive line was going to be better. I thought this linebacking crew was going to be better.
Okay.
I thought there was so I just kind of let it go, I just let it go and then, hope I'm not wrong a lot. But the business we're in is like this, especially when you and I start working on this draft.
Sure.
God dang, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
You look at 200 something players, and there's people that always acknowledge, like on Twitter, or they'll say, man, you like that guy, that was your guy, Ray Davis, that was your guy, and it's like, hey, thanks, yeah. Like it, thanks, that kind of thing. Okay. But when you miss one, I'm the first one to admit, man, I was wrong about that.
All right. Well,
get better that way.
Well, tomorrow we'll talk about how right you were about Malik Hooker, but we ain't gonna give you no credit for it. All right? Hey, man, we appreciate y'all. Look, I'm a fan of Bryan Broaddus. I keeps up with Bryan Broaddus. You understand me? I appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. We love y'all to pieces. Y'all go watch the ball game. Y'all go do your thing. Love y'all. Love y'all. We're gonna talk about quarterbacks and safeties tomorrow. Y'all be sure to follow me at Voch Lombardi. I ain't talking about nothing, but Bryan Broaddus is definitely holding it down for us in the comment sections and on Twitter. Y'all go watch the rest of the shows. All right? Y'all hold it down. We love y'all to pieces. Until next time, Crown.